Welcome everybody to the first episode of Two More White Dudes with Beards. I'm WaywornWyrm and this is Nick.
Hola.
And we decided that we wanted to get together and have an excuse to talk for long periods of time about things that we like. Primarily nerdy tabletop stuff, but
Yes.
not just. We'll get to other topics in the future.
For sure.
So, Nick, do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself? And
Sure thing. I'm Nick, and I started playing tabletop games probably a couple years ago, more seriously, basically because my wife is really into them.
she's awesome.
Yes. And she's amazing. She loves board games. And she started playing D&D with some friends of ours, and then that's kind of how we got introduced. Well, actually, we got introduced because of a work connection, but from there...
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Our wives worked together years ago, right?
Yeah, I actually worked with your wife.
Oh,
years
you
ago, too.
did. I forgot
Yeah.
about that. She mentioned that, and then it hasn't come up again. And since our wives currently work together, it's just like, oh yeah, no, they work together, and that's
Yeah, it was like 10 years ago, which sounds ridiculous to say that out loud, but anyway.
Didn't you have a much fuller big beard when you first worked with my wife about a decade ago?
I didn't, actually.
Oh.
I had a pretty sweet beard going up until about a month and a half ago.
Yeah, and then you changed it for this.
I
I'm
got
getting used to it.
shaved down the mustache, I got rid of all the side stuff, and I took off about that much length. So, pretty
Yeah.
drastic. Pretty drastic change.
Anyway, so going back to...
Yeah, so gaming wise, really got into D&D in the last year and a half or so. Started playing with friends of ours, and
Let me...
so D&D, got into it after resisting it for a long time. I don't know why, but I've always had this like put the brakes on when it came to like too intense of board games or tabletop or role-playing type games.
Mm-hmm.
They just seemed way outside of my like comfort zone and my sort of my sense of what was cool or what was fun. I've always
And the
been into-
weird thing about that is I met you after that. After you got into D&D.
Yeah.
You had just started running a game.
Yeah.
So I have no knowledge of you before when you were just like, no, too complicated board games. Or...
No way. Not gonna do it. But Kat started doing it, my wife, and she would come home and tell me about it, and I was like, what are you doing for hours? How do you play a game for hours like this? Like, what's the deal with this? I don't get it. And she kind of just kept chipping away at me, and
telling about
eventually
these stories.
she wore me down enough that I said I would try, and basically got hooked right away. So there you go. There's a plug for tabletop role-playing games.
So then you moved on to running games. You started running... Has it been like a year now?
Has it? It's been
It's been
almost a year.
Okay, almost a year.
Yeah. I think we started in like maybe November 2018 is I think when we started.
Okay. Because I know
So-
I joined, Wormet and myself
Yeah.
joined after a couple of sessions.
Yeah. Yeah, we had some friends that were part of a previous game that we had done that started the first session with us, and then life just took over, and
Mm-hmm.
they were too busy and couldn't carry on. So, yeah. Luckily, you guys were able to come in.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've been playing pretty solid for better part
Play
of a year.
about once a month. Yeah. There's a session that we had last time that we'll have to talk about at some point where there were four of us who were started in another game that we're playing in, played for 4 hours, then had the second game, and played for another 4 or 5 hours. I think I got to your house at 10 a.m. and it was almost 10 p.m. when I got back home, and your house is a 4-minute drive from my house, so it's not like there's commute time.
Not a lot of travel there. Yeah, it was a long day, but it was really fun.
It was a lot of fun.
2 really cool campaigns. So
yeah, and we'll talk about both of them. We're going to talk about mostly the campaign that you're running. That's what these next few episodes are going to be, because I've also run the game. I think now is a good time to talk a little bit about myself and
I was just going to say, how about you?
In my history with tabletop games. I was introduced to D&D in either late 1998 or early 1999 when Baldur's Gate came out. My best friend at the time was like, hey, my dad got this cool new game, you should come try it out. And it was the Baldur's Gate computer game by a tiny little company that almost no one had ever heard of by that point, called BioWare.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
They haven't done anything since. They haven't made some of the most influential series of video games. Best thing about the first Dragon Age game, so in Baldur's Gate, if you try and leave a map when one or more of your party members are too far away, there's this deep voice that says, you must gather your party before venturing forth. And anytime you leave your camp in Dragon Age Origins, there's a pop-up window that says, gather your party and venture forth, ? And then you select yes or no.
Nice.
Yeah, and then there's a character called Minsk who has a miniature giant space hamster named Boo.
That's an awesome name for a sidekick.
And every time, so Boo takes up one of Minsk's spots in his quick item inventory. And if you click on it to remove it, it squeaks. A little bit of text comes up saying Minsk glares at you threateningly or something along those lines. And one of his battle lines is, go for the eyes, Boo, go for the eyes.
That's awesome. Just throw your miniature hamster at somebody.
Well, it's a normal size hamster. It's a miniature giant space hamster.
Well, there you go.
But in Mass Effect 2, you can get a space hamster, and they use the same sound clip as Minsk is squeaking.
What is a space hamster?
I don't know.
Does he have an astronaut suit on or something?
Nope. It's just a normal looking hamster. It's wonderful.
Right. Hey, why not?
Anyway, so yeah, I started playing D&D through that. That was D&D's 2nd edition. And then the first time I sat down at a table was... Well, it wasn't actually a table. We gathered around this guy's bed.
Oh.
In his basement.
Oh my.
And we live in Oregon, so it was one of those rare Oregon basements where... I swear the walls must have been painted black. Because so you had to go through this unfinished part of the basement to get to his bedroom. It was sketchy as shit. I was 14 at the time with some upperclassmen I'd met at school. The whole getting to his room was sketchy as shit. I just remember how dark it was and saw a furnace and all this exposed piping and ductwork.
Well, I mean, you haven't lived if you haven't been in a friend's sketchy basement before. So,
well, apparently I've been living since I was 14.
There you go.
And I think it was like November, so the rainy season had started. So like the entire basement was damp because it's Oregon.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. I had a friend's basement that I used to hang out in all the time in high school. But we weren't really playing games. We were getting our freaking heads baked off. Yeah. So spent a lot of time doing that.
and sketchy basements in Oregon.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know anything about Oregon, starting in about September, I think we're getting into that right now, I'm just going to call it a rainy season because it's fall, winter, spring. It's 9 months of the year. We do technically live in a rainforest.
Right. Which is weird. Weird to think about.
Yeah, it's the only temperate rainforest in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It rains from September till about May or June.
Yep. And
then it's dry and hot for
yeah,
3 months.
it does. It was not as warm as I thought it was gonna get. We didn't have any like 100-degree, maybe 100-degree day this year.
Yeah, it stayed pretty cool, all things considering. We usually have about a week where it's over 100, a few weeks where it's over 90,
Yeah.
and it's really rare to be in the 70s or lower. From when the rain just decides to stop until they start up again.
Yeah, it is a very hard transition from like rain to like, oh, the sun's out and it's warm. We can take off our coats.
Yeah, I think it was the first winter I lived here. That January, it rained every single day for 35 days.
Yeah.
And I think like a week of that 35 days, it just didn't stop raining.
Yeah. But it's not like, it's not like necessarily a downpour. It's just like a nice, steady amount
Sometimes
of rain.
it's a downpour.
Sometimes, but yeah, we don't have like a lot of
And it's
flooding
cold.
or anything. It does get cold. Yeah, and it's like it like gets through your layers.
Yeah,
kind of
no,
cold.
I'm originally from West Michigan, and I will go into 20-degree weather with snow up to my knees happily before I go through the bullshit that is Oregon 50 degrees raining.
Yeah, it sucks. But it makes us really appreciate it when it's nice out. So we go through like 9 months of just hating life, and then 3 months we're like the happiest people ever.
Yeah. Almost everyone in Oregon needs to take vitamin D pills. Because that's how little vitamin D we get from the sun most of the year.
It's funny you bring that up. I had to take a prescription for like an insane amount of vitamin D because I was so low like a year ago.
So the over-the-counter stuff just wasn't working for you anymore?
No, it wasn't. No, I had to take some fucking mega vitamin D supplement to get back to what I should have been. So that was fun.
Yeah, that's Oregon. But what it also means is very few houses have basements. My house actually has a basement, and I hate it. Because it gets so wet. Not only does it just rain so much that it will find any crack in the walls, but also like the ground gets so wet that it just starts seeping through the concrete.
That sucks.
And going back off this tangent, that was what this guy's basement was like. It smelled of mildew and sketchy basement. And we shut ourselves in his bedroom.
That's awesome.
And had the worst possible experience I ever had.
Well, that's a nice sort of creepy, ominous setting for a D&D campaign, right?
I want to tell you a little bit about this first session, because it was terrible in ways that I don't think you can imagine.
Oh.
So
right. Look forward to that.
there were, I want to say 5 of us. I was a ranger, a half-elf ranger, because I was 14, gotta go with that. You have to make that character a few times when you're young, and then you grow up and play actually interesting characters.
Right on. I didn't get to experience that, so I came into it fully formed.
And then there was another guy who was playing a Kender rogue. Kenders are from Dragonlance. I don't know if you know.
I've heard of it.
They're basically halflings that are kleptomaniacs.
Oh, nice.
But they tend to be like thin. They're not like the rotund. They're not like Tolkien hobbits. Okay. They're these little kleptomaniac, and their like signature weapon is a staff sling.
Oh. Okay.
Which is like a quarterstaff with a sling, like a slingshot on it.
Sweet.
And there was another one or two. There's another 1 or 2 people that I don't remember what they were playing. And then there was a guy who asked to bring in his character from a different game, and it was allowed. It was a level 4 druid. Everyone else was level 1. And the level 4 druid had a level 1 half-orc fighter henchman.
Nice.
And then, for reasons, half the party was in prison, and the other half had to break them out. And that's how we got together.
Yeah.
So we did that, and it was stupid easy.
Oh.
I don't remember how. Like, it was like really, really, really ridiculously easy. And then we went into a forest that was nearby, again, for reasons. And it's this really thick forest, but no matter where you were in the forest, you could always see this big, giant tree that we were supposed to head toward. We finally get to this tree, and there are a whole bunch of dwarven spirits just kind of hanging out in the leaves of the tree, in the branches.
Yeah. And
there's some sort of force field keeping you from getting close to it.
Yeah.
But we're supposed to do something with these spirits. I don't remember what the MacGuffin was, but it was something, and even then I thought it was lame. But I was just like, well, I'm buying into the story. We're doing this because we're told we should do this.
Yeah. I'm interested to hear, like, as it being your first time playing, what was it like getting started and, like, kind of just learning about how the game flows and, like, how you interact with a brand new game like that.
Well, from my perspective, it wasn't a brand new game. No, it was 3.5 by that point.
Okay.
And I actually have my original 3.5 book right there. You see the book that's sideways?
Yeah.
The book just to the left of that.
Oh yeah, I see it. The
is
handbook. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my 3.5 player's handbook. That's the first role-playing game book I ever bought. I bought it in a bookstore that doesn't exist anymore. In a mall, because,
Yeah, where else are you going to find it back then?
I don't know, there's a pretty big secondhand bookstore a few blocks away from that mall.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I found it was in Walton Books. The sad little excuse for a mall the city I lived in at the time had.
Was this in Minnesota?
No, I've never lived in Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
From Michigan. No,
That's what it was.
I went there. I think I'd been living in Oregon for 2 or 3 months by that point.
Oh, okay.
This was like right after I moved.
Gotcha.
And I decided I wanted to get into D&D. So it was, to my perspective, it wasn't a new game to me, because, this is like Baldur's Gate, but without computer.
Mm-hmm.
What it was like when I first played Baldur's Gate, I don't really remember. I was 8.
Yeah. I don't think I can tell you anything about when I was 8.
I mean, I remember the day that I started playing it, and I remember playing it and having fun. But that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was buying in. We made characters. The weird thing is, we made characters on like his family computer. In this like character building program that we had, and then he printed out the sheets because. And then he had us. So I forgot about something that comes into effect really quick into where I left off this in the story. He had each of us draw from the deck of many things. And it was really, really clear that as soon as he let us draw, he regretted that.
Uh-oh.
And he spent like the rest of the game trying to justify not letting us have all of that.
Okay. What is the deck of many things?
Ooh. Let's open up the Dungeon Master Guide. I'm so excited about this. Everyone knows about the deck of many things. You guys cannot fathom how much I'm excited to share the deck of many things with Nick right now.
Yeah.
The deck of many things is this awesome deck. Okay. So, it's a deck of playing cards.
Okay.
And every card... So, it's not actually a full deck. But every card has different things. Like, these are... the designs.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've never seen this before.
So, like, one of them is Comet. If you single-handedly defeat the next hostile monster or group of monsters you encounter, you gain experience points enough to gain 1 level. Otherwise, this card has no effect. Let's see if they still have the card that I pulled. Yeah, so I pulled the Jester. You gain 10,000 experience points.
Whoa. How much, what does that translate in terms of levels?
At least in 3.5. I don't remember about 5th edition, because I don't play with experience points in my games.
Yeah, I haven't played with experience points either.
That would bring a level 1 character to level 5.
Oh, shit. That's badass.
But apparently, according to this guy, they only leveled up at the end of a campaign.
Really? Who the fuck cares about that then? What's the point?
Unless by campaign they meant like adventure or something. I don't know. This ended up only being 1 session, so no clue what the fuck he meant.
Huh.
Here are some other cards from that deck. The Void. This black card spells disaster. Your soul is drawn from your body and contained in an object in a place of the DM's choice. 1 or more powerful beings guard the place. While your soul is trapped in this way, your body is incapacitated. A wish spell can't restore your soul, but the spell reveals the location of the object that holds it. You draw no more cards.
Holy fuck.
Skull. You summon an avatar of death. A ghostly humanoid skeleton clad in a tattered black robe and carrying a spectral scythe. It appears in a space of the DM's choice within 10 feet of you and attacks you. Warning all others that you must win the battle alone. The avatar fights until you are dead or until it drops to 0 hit points, whereupon it disappears. If anyone tries to help you, the helper summons its own avatar of death. A creature slain by an avatar of death can't be restored to life.
Jesus Christ. So, what is the origin of this thing?
I don't know, but those are some of the other. Or you can pull like gem, 25 pieces of jewelry worth 2,000 gold pieces each, or 50 gems worth 1,000 gold pieces each appear at your feet.
Okay. So this came up in the campaign in the basement.
Yes.
Okay.
We all pulled from this. Here, will you put that back? And I pulled the Jester and got 10,000 experience points, and then was promptly told I can't use any of them. So it's just like, but why? And the Jester is you can have 10,000 experience points or draw 2 more cards.
Oh, okay.
And 10,000 experience points should always be worth it.
Yeah.
And the way the Deck of Many Things works is you get that experience right then. You level up to 5 then.
Like I don't see the point if there was some sort of weird delay on it. I mean,
yeah. But he was just like, no.
It's like, fuck you. You don't get this right now.
Yeah. And then the Druid pulled a card that gave him a magic item of his choice. Nice. And he and the DM worked out that it was this like crystal ball that I always imagined, he held it like this and it took up that whole space. And anyone you look at through that crystal ball, you can hear their thoughts.
That could come in handy, although it would be odd to be like standing around and have some guy hold up a ball in front of you. Like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
Well, I mean, he could be like across the room.
Okay.
And hold it.
He's like putting a cloak, like a cloak over it while he's looking at you from across the room.
Okay, Strahd. Yeah, and then I don't remember what the others drew. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So we spent a little bit trying to figure out how to get past this force field. And the Kender player just was like, well, fuck it. Sticks his staff into the ground, pulls it back, shoots himself, grabbing his staff as he flies away. Because apparently that's something Kenders can do.
Okay.
Or at least they could in this game. And he shoots himself into the tree and tries to talk to the spirits. And they talk back, and it's boring as shit.
Oh.
So he starts playing cards with them.
Okay.
And then, like, an hour of in-game time goes... Or in real-life time goes by, as the rest of us are just like... What do we do?
Yeah.
And then one of the players looks at our character sheets, and she's just like... almost all of us are chaotic neutral. Why the fuck are we still here?
Yeah.
And no one could answer that, so I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna leave. I'm a ranger. I'm in a forest. That's my favorite terrain. Or, I don't remember if 3.5 rangers got to pick favorite terrain at level 1. Doesn't matter.
The important thing is...
So I go to leave the forest. Yeah, I got bored as shit, tried to leave the forest. Didn't make it all the way, camped for the night, woke up in a different spot in the forest. And this went on for like 5 nights. And he was never more than a day's he was never less than a day's full travel from the edge of the forest. And I was just like, okay, I can still see the tree, right? Yes. Well, I put the tree at my back and navigate by going directly away from the tree. Didn't affect anything. So finally, after like 5 or 6 days in-game of trying to do that, where the Kender player is still playing cards with these ghosts for like days. And I think even the Kender player was bored at this point, and he's just kind of like, I guess I'm still playing cards. He did the whole, that's what my character would do thing, which that's going to be an entire episode later, is that's what my character would do. We'll center an episode on that.
Yeah. See, I don't even have enough experience to like. So probably add a lot to that because when I play, I'm just like, well, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want to do. I don't care what my character would do. Maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Well, we'll talk about that when
Yeah.
we get there. So, eventually, I decide, okay, well, then I'm going to turn around and walk back to the tree, I guess, because can't do anything else. And then it takes me like an hour to walk back to the tree. And I was just like, okay. Fine.
Yeah. Awesome. Back in the tree.
And then the Kender player decides to rejoin us, and we leave the forest. And magically, we can now! This time, the tree doesn't teleport us. We didn't do anything at the tree.
No, like, no battle, no,
No.
puzzles, no...
If there was a puzzle, we never figured out how to solve it. Like, we didn't even find pieces to a puzzle. Like, I don't know what the point of that scene was.
Okay.
I don't even want to call it an encounter because I don't know if we encountered anything.
Okay.
And by this point, it's been like 3.5 hours. And like, remember the whole jailbreak thing, I think that took like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So we spent like 3 hours at this tree.
Wow.
And then we leave the forest. By this point, it's really, really clear that the DM, A, doesn't like the crystal ball, and B, doesn't like that he allowed the level 1 henchman. Like, he later told us that he had tried to make sure that the henchman died in the jailbreak. And it's just like, well, then you should have given us more enemies or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there's ways you could have done that. And he didn't. So, the Kender player goes to steal the orb because kleptomaniacs, as I mentioned. And then the druid notices, because he got high enough on his notice check to beat the sleight of hand check, and sends his henchman to get it back.
Mm-hmm.
There's a struggle, and the ball falls, and it breaks.
Oh, no.
And it releases the magic, which it melds the orc and the Kender into a dragon.
Jesus.
Because reasons.
This DM hated you guys, basically.
And the Kender player had like 15 minutes of fun where he's arguing, where he's playing like this dragon with two personalities that are fundamentally opposed.
Mm-hmm.
And then this level 1 half-orc fighter understands the magic that was released by the breaking of this ball enough to be able to kick the Kender out. And he kind of reappears on the ground, and then he flies off.
Oh.
And that's the end of the session.
That seems so random. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
That was my first in-person session of D&D.
Nice. So, did you guys carry on with that story in future
No.
sessions? It was just a one-shot, basically?
It was supposed to be the start of a campaign. But it was just so bad that no one wanted to have a session 2.
Wow. So, was this a... I guess you'd call it a story, or a rough draft of a story that the DM came up with by themselves?
I don't know. That it's definitely not... Well, if it's part of a published adventure, it went so far off the rails it might as well not have been.
Yeah, sounds like it.
I don't know. I lost contact with that group. I regained contact years later with most of them, including the DM, but I didn't really want to do anything with him because obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I never asked what the fuck that was supposed to be. To this day, I don't know. I don't know what the story was supposed to be.
What kind of makes it more interesting? The mystery of it. Like, where did this shit come from?
How did it go so wrong?
Oh, that's awesome.
See, you wouldn't have imagined that first session would have been that bad if I hadn't told you.
No. That's quite different from my first experience. Yeah. Which, I mean, it was part of the 5th edition, and
yeah,
maybe we could talk about that sometime. But anyway,
so yeah, after that, I decided I can do better than this, and so I started running, mostly online. I started running like a couple of months after my first session in 2004. It's now 2019. I'm still playing, and I'm running 2 games and playing in 2 others.
Yeah, you're pretty busy. You do them online mostly?
I do 1 online right now. Although that's currently on hiatus because the only time that we can meet, my job currently has me working at that point.
Oh.
Yeah. It's Sundays generally at 6:30 is when we start on Twitch at WaywornWyrm. Twitch.tv/WaywornWyrm. Mm-hmm. And right now I work Sundays I work Sunday through Thursday noon to 9 p.m. So, but shift bids are starting on Monday, so I can change my shift.
Oh, right on. Yeah, I know those swing shifts can be brutal sometimes.
I mean, since I start at 12, I do get a shift differential, and it's ridiculously high. It's 10%.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like, it's usually a quarter or 50-cent shift differential.
Yeah.
Mine is 10%, so that it works out to be... It brings my hourly wage up almost $2 an hour.
Hey, I mean, if you gotta be doing work that you're not super stoked about, might as well get paid a little bit more.
Might as well get paid a little bit more, yeah. So,
how did you come up with WaywornWyrm? Where did that come from?
That came from Xbox Live. You know how it randomly gives you a name?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least it used to. I don't know, WaywornWyrm's a bit old. But it came up with WaywornWyrm, WORM. And I was just like, I don't want to be a worm. I want to be a worm. Switch it to Y. For a while, and there are a couple of holdovers that still show that it's worm, WURM. I'd consider going with that. Mm-hmm. That is a even more rare spelling of worm, meaning dragon.
Yeah.
I ended up going with WYRM.
Right on.
So that's where that comes from.
Right. Pulled back the curtain, man.
Yes. And then, just doing a whole bunch of stuff. This podcast, I think this is a good first episode.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of stuff we want to, cover throughout episodes, we touched pretty heavy on, D&D, and we'll definitely be talking about D&D.
D&D is going to be our next few episodes. We're going to be talking about Curse of Strahd, because I ran that on Twitch, and you're currently running it, and I'm playing in that game, and One of the things that I really want to talk about with that is how two people can run the same published adventure, and it's different, like very different, and I enjoy that.
Yeah.
I like that you surprise me basically every episode, because it's just like, huh, I didn't do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Right? Yeah, I imagine it would get a little tedious
if you played it the exact same, if you ran it the exact same way. Yeah. What I'm really excited about is we're almost at the point where, so when I played it, when I ran it, the players skip like 2/3, and we're almost at that. We're almost finished with the third that we've played. Like, I've never actually been to Bresk, or whatever the name of that little town is with the hag.
Yeah.
I'd never run that before.
Yeah.
So that was really fun.
Yeah.
Although that has an issue that we'll talk about. We'll devote an episode to Bresk.
Definitely.
Our next episode, which will go up next week, is on Yester Hill, part of Curse of Strahd. Because we both ran that, and we both have kind of the same issues.
Yeah.
If you like this, if you're watching on YouTube, do the YouTube things, like subscribe, like, comment. If you're watching this, well, by watching I mean listening.
Yeah.
Because this is definitely a podcast in podcast form. I'm not quite sure yet, at the time of recording, what places we'll have, but we're going to try and get all the normal places where you can find podcasts.
Yeah.
And then we do have a Patreon, Two More White Dudes with Beards. If you like us enough that you want to help us out with that, that'd be great. And either way, we'll be back next week. Thank you so much.
Yes. And hopefully we'll have a sweet logo to go along with the title.
Well, that's in production right
Yes.
now. That by the time this goes up, that should be finished. I've got an artist. I've commissioned him, because pay your artists. Pay them on time and in full. Don't be a dickwad.
True that.